Hello everybody, welcome to part 3 of the Victorian Interior tutorial. We're going to be covering roughness and metallic. Metallic is on the pattern, and obviously roughness is on everything else. This should be a pretty quick one. Just looking here at some of the detail on our roughness. Obviously there's a lot of different values: the glass, the rain, the metal, the wallpaper, and the wood. And we're going to be using a similar workflow that we used on part 2 with the normals and the base color. So here we are in Substance Designer. We're just going to look at what our final product is going to be like. So we do overlay our base wood roughness on everything. And for things like glass, obviously we'll be making our own. But then once we do our base wood roughness, we do add our own on top to kind of just break up the roughness. So it's not just roughness based on wood, and it's roughness based on like crevices and like recesses and like deep spots, and where dirt and stuff would accumulate. So I'm gonna unplug everything as usual, and then we'll go one by one. So be right back. All right, so we're back, and right now I've disconnected, but I've turned off all the blend modes. And then right now, this is what our roughness looks like. So let's go all the way to the beginning. And we're going to start over here with our base wood from the prereq part 0. So we're going to pull from the roughness. And just to have, some space to have everything organized, we're going to plug that into a safe transform scale, just like we did in the last part. And we're going to increase the tiling to 2. Then we're going to blend that with a uniform color here, set to 0.515. And then for the opacity, we're just going to plug this guy from the last tutorial, because here's where we added the dark spots in the color part. So I want to have those guys and use that as a mask here. You can see the difference there. Very subtle. Then we have another safe transform here. And just like every other starting safe transform, it's set to random seed, tile, and random. So 1, 1, random. This one's also set to 1, 1, and random. That way you got to make sure they all match up, or your roughness is not going to be matching your base color. So after this guy here, we do a vector warp grayscale, set to 5, set to seed 0, just like all of these guys here, 0 and 5, 0 and 5. Again, so that it matches. We're going to be using our FF random color portal. And then that's going to go into RO1, similar to the previous video, where we have C1, color 1, and a normal 1. So use that as a reference. I don't want to spend too much time on this one, because this one should be a lot faster. And then we're starting here with a uniform color of 0.6. And that's going to go into our foreground. This is going to go into our background. And then for our opacity, again, we're just going to be pulling from the previous mask. So that's just going to go down there. And now we're going to go step by step and assign our masks to our roughness. So we go from this to this. And you can see it already. It looks a lot more interesting. Then we have roughness 2. And again, we're just lining things up. So what you can do here, you can't copy paste because these are safe transform colors. And these are safe transform grayscales. I wish there was a way to right click and say convert to color or from grayscale to color. Maybe that is possible and I just don't know. So if it is, let me know in the comments, but I haven't found the way. But then again, I haven't looked hard enough. But you do want to match the same settings. So since this is plugged into color 2 or O2, then you want to make sure your random seed matches that. So this one's set to 2. And then make sure your offset mode is random. And then when the wood grain runs, vertically, make sure you swap your rotation to 90 degrees. Like right here. This one runs up and down, so I have it set to 90. And since this one is plugged into CO7, then my seat has to be 7. So same thing here. This one's plugged into roughness 02. So my seat here has to be 2. And then random. And then plug it in down there. So then we go from this to this. And then we do the same thing here for, I think this is the top. Yeah. So C3, offset, random. So we're just gonna go down real quick. Then we have our next one here. And of course, since this is 04, 03, 02, then they are going to be pulling from the same masks or opacity inputs as everything else up here. So this guy connects down here, and so on. So then this adds the middle piece again, so that everything matches. Because we don't want the grain to be running because they're separate pieces of wood. Then we have our first multi-switch here, and everything before 04 is going to go into input 1 and input 3, and then RFO itself is going to go into input 2 because this is a window related node here. Then we have 5. Just going to zoom out a little bit here so we can see it. So then here I'm doing the lower parts. Then we have 7, 8, and again, just be matching. So here it does rotate 90 degrees on 7 and on 8. And it just makes sure the seats match. And then here we have our wall, window, door switch. Don't forget to change your input numbers and then to use the same one you've been using, which is type of wall. Then we have R10. You can see the change right here. Then we have 11. We have 12, 13, 14. And you can see it slowly building up here. So this one's 16 and it's plugged into 16, so we know that's good. We have another multi-switch here. R16 goes into input 2. And then everything else from R11. So before R12, between 11 and 12, that goes into input 1 and 3 here. Then we have 17, 18. You can see it being built slowly over here. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And then we have another switch. And for input 1 and 3, you're plugging in from between 21 and 22. Keep on building. And then here's where we run into our rain mask or our glass mask. So we're going to take our mask glass portal here and plug it into the opacity. And then we're just going to take this uniform color set to black in grayscale, plug that into the foreground. And then we're assigning this black to this mask. So that's how we get our window here, our glass. And then I wanted to add like a bit of a fade. If you look over here, I wanted to add a bit of a fade, like it's fogging up, just to kind of have some visual transition from the bottom to the top so that it's not even everywhere. I don't know why this guy's here. Do not get confused. But up to 26, it should be the same. I guess thankfully this is 27, I think. Oh yeah, I don't know why I didn't add 27. There we go. Alright, so then to add this fog effect, what I did was I took a gradient linear 1, and then I used a levels here to play around with the values. I'm just going to do 1. So you can see here that I lowered the gradient, and I was looking at this at the window mask so that I can see where it's going to sit. And then I took our noise Perlin noise of 16 scale and C to 1, and then I directionally warped it downward, so negative 90 degrees with an intensity of 75, so that we go from this to this. And then I took another levels and I wanted to increase the dark spots, the black here. And then I blended that together with another gradient. And then I did a multiply. So we take this gradient linear 1, split it into our levels, and then multiply these two together, and we get this. Then that feeds into the foreground, and then we take the same mask that we just did in 27, mask class, to get this effect. Then we have the rain itself. So we took another uniform color, set the black, grayscale, and then we take our mask rain, plug the mask rain into the opacity, and the uniform black into the foreground. And then that gives us, then we're getting this effect. Which I guess that doesn't really make sense because the rain is on the outside. But it looks cool, so we're going to keep it. And then, since this is window related stuff, the fog and the rain and stuff, that goes into input 2. And before 25, between 24 and 25, the result of the switch is going to go into 1 and 3. Then we continue on with R28. Now I think, yeah, this is door related stuff. So let's switch over to the door. Let it load. Okay, so if I turn this off, you can see that it still looks like this. So now we're adding our first coat here of roughness for the door. And we're using this mask, which is coming from C28. And then again, this should be 28 because we're 28, set to random. Then we have the middle pieces of wood, 29, 30. So now we add the horizontal ones. You can see here it's still running up and down. So then we step 30 fixes that. Then we go to 31 to add the smaller details here. Then we have 32. 33, which is the top part here. And then 34. And then since this is door related only, then the result of R34 goes into input 3. And then everything between or anything after this wall window door, which is after 27, the result of that before 28 goes into 1 and 2. Then after that, what's going on here? Oh, we're adding our wallpaper roughness. So we go from this to this. So to do that, we start with our height wallpaper fabric mask. That looks like, I guess it's not, sorry, it's not a mask, it's a height. Because you can see here the height information. It's not a black and white. Then we do an auto level just to get the full range. And then I invert it because I want the deep spots to be the rough ones. And since the white spots in height is the highest, I want the lowest, so I invert it. And then I multiply with the mask wall so that I only have wallpaper where there's a wall. Then the result of that goes into the opacity, and then this uniform color set to 0.7. And then we get this. And then I notice here on the side, you are getting some bit of a reflection because of the roughness. So to fix that is we need to take this wall mask and then do this trick where we extend it by 1 pixel. But I'm not going to bother just because it's not as noticeable as the base color being on the side. So then after that, what do we have here? What's this? Oh, I just add some noise on top of the wallpaper so that it's not even roughness. It's hard to see, but it is there. You can see the difference kind of more on here. But you can also see it here. And to do that, we have a grunge map 8 into a levels. And then we take our noise moisture scale of 1. So this guy, and we level it. Oh, geez. Just make it that. And then that feeds into a subtract. I'm just trying to have a more interesting noise here. So you can do whatever you like here. So I subtract those two. Lower the opacity. And then I take my wall mask, and again, I mask it out so that it's only on the wall. And then I have a levels here that helps me control the intensity that I want on here. So that if I turn this up and down, it becomes more and more noticeable. So I'm just going to undo that, go back to 0.2. And then we have a uniform color set to grayscale to a value of 1 for the foreground. And then we just copy. And you can see the difference better here. Then I add another layer of this time, instead of roughness, I guess the opposite of roughness. And I just take a black and white spots 2. I histogram scan it to get some like splushes. And then I multiply with the wall mask again to mask it out. And then I use a levels node here to control how strong I want it in the opacity. And then we have a grayscale uniform color set to 0. And then you can see we have some like dirty spots there. Which again just helps break it up. You can kind of see it. Then we have the metal itself, or like the metallic trim pattern. That one's way more noticeable. And actually, looking back, I think this should have gone first before this stuff. So let's fix that real quick. So I'm just going to grab this, and I'm going to move it down here. Grab all of this. Move this forward. Plug this in here. Grab this. And move it back over here. And then this should go... Oh, wait. Should be like that. Okay, sorry about that. So then just make sure you replug this into here. And then from here to here. And then everything else should be good. And you just make sure your connections are good by dragging these down. Yeah, because... Sorry, what I want first is... You know, the metallic... And then, like, the dirtiness goes on top. Because before I had the metallic on top of the dirtiness, which doesn't make any sense. Because the metallic pattern should also be, you know, dirty. And it should look like this. Alright, so... we have to fix this step here. Or this is the one that's left, I mean. So hopefully that wasn't too bad for you guys. But what we need to do is start with a moisture noise into a levels. And then we have our wallpaper trim mask. It looks like this. And then I subtract, this noise from the pattern to kind of add some imperfection. Then we take a grunge map 1 and a transform 2D that I've docked. So let's look at the values here. I just increased the tiling and moved it around randomly. Just gonna dock that back. And then we subtract to kind of add some more imperfection, more variation. And then we have a switch grayscale. And obviously I only want this to occur if there's a wallpaper. And by wallpaper I mean the pattern. So we take our mask black. And then we have a switch here. And we're using the wallpaper switch. So if there is wallpaper, then obviously we want this or patterns. And if there is no patterns or no wallpaper, then we want to use the mask black. Then the result of that goes into the opacity. And then we have our uniform color. This is what's dictating the roughness of the pattern. And it's at the grayscale, 0.22. And then we have our pattern roughness. And then we have this stuff, which is, going on top, which is what we want, which is better. Then here, what is this? Okay, so then here we're taking from this levels here. This is from, just to kind of give you, so you guys know where it's located. From this, look for these two switches here. And then the result of the levels, which looks like this, where we did the ambient occlusion. From there, it goes into another level so that I can dictate how much of the opacity is being used. And then we have our uniform white set to grayscale. So then you can see here that we're adding some more detail in the corners. And in this over here. So if we hide this, and adds just kind of more contrast to kind of break up the smoothness of the wood. You can see it over here as well. And it just kind of adds more imperfection, more dirtiness, more detail, more contrast, so that it doesn't look like it's just uniform base wood roughness all over. Then here we add the other ones to the door, which is coming from this guy here. Same idea, take a uniform color. And then you can see on the door here. Oh, I think it's this one. The difference, again, just contrast so that it's not smooth and shiny all over. And then the levels here, set to 0.3. And then we do the same thing again here, but now we're adding the more tighter dirt that's accumulating on the corners. Then here we're going to take our final AO mask, plug it into an auto levels, invert it, and then use a levels here to tighten it up. Uniform white grayscale. Then you can see the difference here. You can kind of see it on there too. Then we have this guy. What's this guy doing? And then we have our other layer. So then for that, we take our mask, our dirt mask, we level it, plug that into the opacity, uniform white grayscale, and then we just throw a little bit of sharpen in there. I think it brings out more detail. And then here we add our door timeline mask. Oops. Into the opacity, and then we have our super rough grayscale uniform color white. And then from the sharpen, it goes into the background. And then here, you know, it's so that if we can open the door, look at the roughness there, and then look at the roughness over here when the door opens. Why isn't it changing? What's wrong with my base color? This should be working. Oh, it's because this was already on. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's already true. So you can see here that when it goes into the shadows, I'm increasing the roughness all the way up to 1. So then this is what it looks like. And then obviously as you open it more and more, it's going to start wiping out the roughness detail. Because it's supposed to be like an abyss inside, right? So then the result of this guy here goes into the true. Again, this is another just a binary switch. So if it's true or boolean, so if it's true, do this, and if it's not, then do what's before it. So after the sharpen, before this door abyss blend. And then since this is all door specific only, then that should go into 3, and then everything before after the sharpen goes into 1 and 2. And then that's it. And then if we open the door all the way, you can see that it's completely rough, as it should be. And then door closed, and then we'll do 1.4, we'll do 0.5, and then we'll just turn off the switch so that we don't have to keep changing the slider back to 0. We can just turn the switch off, and it'll remember that. All right, and then for metallic, it's not very hard. Let's go back to window. Well, actually, I guess we don't have to. It doesn't matter because it's for wallpaper. It's not for anything window specific. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our pattern 1, which is our pattern, and then our wall, and we're just going to multiply them to get the mask, and then we're going to subtract our dirt mask from it, this mask, because there's some dirtiness here. So then we go from this to this, so the metallicness is getting dirty. And then we have a switch for, again, the wallpaper being turned on and off. So if it's true, we're going to need this, and if it's not true, we're just going to do black because there's no pattern. And then that's going to plug into this blend mode set to add linear dodge, and then we're going to do a mask opacity portal here into invert. Then we're going to add it together, or add it together, and then we're going to subtract. Wait, why do I have this? Let's find out. Let me switch between the other types of wall. I'm sure there's a reason why I have it, but I don't know. I don't remember why. Huh. I wonder why I have this. Oh. Is this to make the window metallic? But then here I subtract it again. Wait, why is it looking like that? What is happening? Let's go to wall. Maybe it just didn't load properly. Okay, that looks good. Let's go to door. Okay, that looks good. And then let's go to window. Yeah, I just don't think it compiled correctly. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so why do we have this? It doesn't seem like I need it. Let's turn it off. Yeah, I don't know why I have this. Huh. I'm not sure. I'd rather not delete it. Because I'm not sure if it's like holding up everything somewhere somehow. But I guess just keep it in there. Let me know in the comments. I mean, we're at the end, so I don't think it matters. We can leave it in there. Live and let live. All right, so then we have our wall, window, door mask. And then we subtract that from the result here. And then plug that into the metallic. And then if we take wallpaper off, wait, is it working? Should be off now. Okay, there we go, yeah. Okay, yeah, and then we turn it on. And obviously this will work for all the different types. So if we go back to, let's say, door. And then you can see here it also respects it if we turn off the wallpaper. There you go. Alrighty, well, I think that's it. I was going to show this stuff, but this is all just for like rendering and marmoset. And it's, you know, specific to that. If you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments and I can do like a marmoset setup, show you how I set up that scene. Yeah, so I can show you guys how to set this up in marmoset, but it's just a bunch of planes. But next tutorial, we're going to be doing the Victorian ceiling and the Victorian floor. That'll probably be coming next week. Let me know which one you want to see first. But yeah, these are a lot shorter than obviously the trio here of the wall, window, and door. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. And let me know what else you guys want to see. And I will catch you guys next time.